All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. This is The Late Show, and we're live from Los Angeles. Your host, Young Brando, ready to talk watches. Now, we're gonna take a look at the Sotheby's Fine Watches auction today. Um, but before we get to that, before we continue with the coverage from that, I just wanted to show you a few more pieces that I was delighted to see from the Only Watch auction preview. At Christie's here in Los Angeles, more specifically in Beverly Hills. They were great hosts, and especially having dropped in the first day, I got a very good opportunity to look at a lot of stuff. I don't think I talked about every single one of them, but you must have seen some on my Instagram. I've also posted them on my shorts section, on my shorts selection here. So you should feel absolutely free to browse through them. I have a handful more to post. So far, I've posted about 12 pieces, about a dozen. And I think I got a chance to take a closer look at about 14, 15 pieces, and really most of them that I really liked. And Only Watch is a biannual event that brings together the horological industry, the Swiss watch industry, around together for a good cause, for medical research, specifically research on uh, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And all these brands, a lot of major brands, a lot of legacy makers, and also many rising independents contribute as part of their effort a very special, unique watch, their only watch that is made for this particular occasion. Sometimes the changes they make to an existing model can be absolutely minor, as little as the color of a dial. Sometimes they bring everything together and even collaborate with other watchmakers to bring something really special, usually quite complicated, to the table, something that they have never done before. And especially when they do that, a lot of times they use this occasion as an opportunity to test out certain ideas, to experiment, and really to get a feel as to how they can go forward, whether they should introduce a new model or not. Um, for example, the Jarajanta brand took the opportunity, or rather Louis Vuitton, La Fabrique du Temps, took the opportunity to revive, to reintroduce the Jarajanta brand with this amazing chiming watch that kind of took all the identifiable signifiers that are connected with the proper name, the octagonal case design, the chiming watch, which was really popular in the 90s, and one of the ultra high horology pieces of the time. Of course, at a more accessible level, Jarajanta was always known um, for its jump hour pieces with retrograde complications, at least a retrograde minutes. This watch integrates those two complications into the picture as well. And it is a Mickey Mouse watch, and you know that in in the Swiss horological industry, Janta was really a pioneer in uh, taking in elements from Disney, characters from Disney, and integrating them into their watch designs, especially in these kinds of pieces. Furlan Marie, who had made their entry into the industry with these beautiful contemporary clones, you can say, of Patek's iconic chronographs, reference 1463 Tasti Tondi, went all out, collaborating with the young watchmaker Julien Tissier and also the veteran Dominique Renault of Renault et Papy fame. And they used this secular perpetual calendar to basically announce their intention to make more complicated and mechanical watches in the future. Uh, they already have a time-only three-hander in the lineup, which I think is a great watch. It is a mechanical watch, and it is going to be part of a much larger lineup that includes many complicated pieces, at least a very accessible, affordable perpetual calendar. Of course, a secular perpetual calendar is very rare and quite a very rare complication that's quite difficult to implement. So there's a good chance that would be a one-off, but you should expect to see a perpetual calendar within their lineup quite soon as a mechanical watch. Tag Heuer, for the first time, introduced a split-second chronograph into the legendary Monaco model, which is quite a surprise, right? You would think that this would have been done. A titanium case with a marbled pattern, which gives it heavy urban camel vibes. GB Vol, thank you. Nice to see you here. Beautifully finished watch with an open work dial that has the chronograph registers suspended on two titanium bridges as well. And once again, I think this is a design, this is a complication that in a more simplified, in a more streamlined manner, they might just bring into their normal lineup. FP Jean used their famous blue in an integrated piece that is fully executed in tantalum. The theme they chose for it was furtivité, so to speak. It's called chronomètre bleu furtif, like a stealthy piece, a piece that is supposed to be quite discreet in the way that it has this beautiful enamel dial with matte laser engraved numerals, matte blue finished hands that are almost invisible, that almost blend into the background from certain angles and certain conditions of lighting. The case and bracelets are very much in line with their Line Sport family of watches, their sporty lineup. This is, in fact, the smaller version of that case, of that design, at 42 millimeters of diameter, and I believe about 9.5 millimeters thick. Continuing with that theme of stealth, they have also integrated two indicators onto the 18 karat pink gold movement. Up top, you have the power reserve indicator. And down there, a moon phase indicator. And I think that kind of work is done with implemented into a movement that is by and large fashioned from 18 karat pink gold itself, makes it all the more striking, all the more beautiful. And of course, the center sweep seconds in orange adds quite a refreshing element to what is otherwise perhaps quite a severe piece of design, perhaps a little bit too serious for the purpose. This watch, by the way, being in tantalum, it has quite an heft and quite a presence, and its dimensions as actually with the integrated integrated bracelet design with basically no lugs makes it quite wearable as well. One of my absolute favorites was the Tudor Prince Chronograph 1, which brings back those famous neo-vintage, vintage / neo-vintage Tudor big block chronographs that were built with the generic Valjoux 7750 movements, named big block because of their thickness. This piece being fully executed in gold and mixing it with black, of course, leans quite heavily on the John Player special theme, that famous livery of the legendary Team Lotus. And it also actually is built upon, is powered by a Tudor Canisi manufacturer caliber MT59XX, which is rumored to ultimately replace what Tudor currently uses, which is kind of part of a student exchange program that they have with Breitling. Tudor uses Breitling's B01 self-winding chronograph movements. And Breitling uses the MT 5611 or 5602, if I'm not mistaken, in their Super Ocean Heritage 42 millimeter dive watch. This piece was really living up to the name of Big Block. I didn't get a side profile shot, unfortunately. I do apologize, but you can see from the way my hands are shaking how heavy it is. I should do some weightlifting before I handle this Tudor for the next time. The other piece that I really liked, it was perhaps my absolute favorite from the entire lot. This is a collaboration between the young watchmaking's dynamic duo, Petaman Beda, who made quite a name for themselves with their Deadbeat Seconds piece, and more recently, a split-second chronograph that rivals all great, and in fact is priced basically at the same level as the Patek Philippe 5370p. They decided to go much more low key and showed, I think, enormous class and some remarkable restraint in collaborating with Theo Offray from Paris and building a time only watch. And another challenge they took was using the classic uh, Zenit caliber 135, versions of which were regularly submitted to observatory trials and won so many awards for their chronometric precision. And I think it was all the more significant because they decided to work on this caliber so soon after Kari Voutilainen just did his thing in collaboration with the brand itself, Zenit, and the Philips auction house for a 10+1 limited edition. So I thought it was quite exciting from these three young watchmakers to, first of all, set their ego aside. I don't even know them personally. Maybe they don't even have that much of an ego, even with their remarkable accomplishments already. And they went with something so simple, so stunning, um, even though their entire catalog is complicated pieces, is flashy pieces. You know, Theo Offray has made his name with uh, two tourbillon wristwatches, one of which is more of a classical design, the other one kind of an aspiring sporty piece. So I thought it was all the more remarkable for that. And it has all these lovely aesthetic elements that, of course, pay homage to the in-house expertise that these watchmakers have. For example, Theo Offray uses this particular finishing technique that is called charbonnage, which uses an actual piece of coal and oil to apply this sort of irregular and undulating finish here manifested or demonstrated on the bridge plates. Of course, the swan neck regulator is made in-house by Peterman Beda and is hand finished. Lots of black polished elements, which are also accomplished in-house. And the dial itself is thermally treated, made from a solid silver blank and flame whitened to this beautiful off-white bone color, which has a very unique texture, by the way. You might see it better on my Instagram page. So I do invite you to take a look there. Hey, Sam. Nice to see you, man. Please hit the like button, by the way. That always helps enormously. I was also extremely impressed by the Barbier Müller Mosaic number 2. This is a watch that is truly dedicated to the artisanal aspects of watchmaking. It's only the second in line for from a project led by Stéphane Barbier Müller, whose family has assembled one of the most important private collections on ethnographic arts over the course of 2 generations. They actually have an entire museum in Geneva. Um, I think it was in 20, 2017 when Barbier Müller introduced the Mosaic One in the Only Watch auction, which was then followed by a 10-piece limited series. That one highlighted specifically the cloisonné technique. It was also a pink gold watch, so using gold hairline threads was very appropriate for that. In this case, they used the chanlevé technique, which is the craft of inlaying hard stones uh, in a metal case or surface. It can be a wooden case as well. Of course, here we have a very nice and hefty platinum case in 41 millimeters. The watch, the case is made by Les Boîtiers de Genève, which is F.P. Jean's case maker. And that shouldn't surprise because the whole idea, I think, germinated as part of an initial conversation between François-Paul Jean and Stéphane Barbier-Müller. The watch is also powered by the caliber 1304, which will be familiar to us, of course, from the time-only watches by F.P. Jean, such as Chronomètre Sovereign and Chronomètre Bleu. The piece is designed around the symbol of the lotus flower, which is a symbol of purity, of regeneration, of birth and rebirth. And the dial is actually a beautiful bloodstone background. Bloodstone being, of course, this particular variety of jasper, green jasper, deep green jasper with a kind of a blood splatter kind of pattern. It's inlaid all in hard stones on the dial, on the case band, on the lugs, and also on the case back, which is hinged in an homage to classic pocket watches, which you can open onto a beautiful sight of the 1304. I think this will be a limited edition as well, probably more than 10 this time. I heard the number 20. And it will be exclusively available through the Geneva boutique of F.P. Jean. The Kari Voutilainen CSW Only Watch 2023 was a great piece as well. I frankly did not have much love for the green dial when it was first revealed online, but in person, I love it and I feel like I understand it a little better. CSW actually refers directly to cushion-shaped world timer. The design harkens back to the only watch they made in 2018, TP1, which was a watch that Kari Voutilainen designed with his then freshly graduated from watchmaking school. s- Sorry, my English is failing me a little bit. At the time, Kari Voutilainen had designed the watch with his daughter Venla, who is also a watchmaker, who was then freshly graduated from the watchmaking school. In pocket watch version, the watch already looked unexpectedly modern, and here on wristwatch form with short and beautifully angled lugs, I think it has a very sporty appearance. This is already a limited series in a different color scheme and in stainless steel of 10 pieces, but the only watch version is actually 39 millimeter by 39 millimeter with a thickness of 12 millimeter. The three-hole screws, there are 8 of them, not only accent the corners of the design, but also secure the entire assembly, front and back. The watch has a new movement, a new caliber. Hey, Captain Kirk, nice to see you, man. And Basil, lovely to see you both. The movement is designed from scratch. It's designed from the ground up. It's a little thinner, I believe, than his usual caliber 28. A new complication, of course, for the house, a fully integrated world time mechanism. And it's a very nifty execution because there's no need for an extra crown or pusher. Everything is integrated into the crown. And when you push it against, you change the time zones 1 hour at a time by pushing the crown against the case band, which is very practical. Um, I don't know why no one else did it before. I guess you really have to design something from scratch uh, for such a simple yet sensible solution. And of course, Kari Voutilainen did just that. That's what a world class, a first class independent watchmaker brings to the table. Um, what do I say about the green dial? Of course, um, I find it quite refreshing and strikingly beautiful in person, which is, of course, a credit to the guilloche main or hand guilloche decoration. That is, of course, a house specialty at Voutilainen. It is produced out of a solid silver blank. Um, both the color and pattern are unique to the only watch version. The 10-piece limited edition, which has a stainless silver case, also has a kind of anthracite gray color scheme with a trivag wavy design in the at the center of the dial. Uh, Here, the full 24 division of the sunburst pattern radiates from the very center of the dial, and the lush green hue and the cohesive pattern evoke kind of a bird's eye view or a view from the plane of the evergreen pine trees, which must be a common feature of the flora in Kemi and Motier, respectively, the Finnish hometown, and the Swiss residence of the horological wonder maker, both of which are uniquely represented on the city's ring of this singular world time wristwatch. And that's the other thing I genuinely enjoy about these quote unquote oddball world timers, precisely because they have different cities that you don't see on on every other world timer, right? Where else are you going to have Motier instead of Geneva or Paris, right? Where else are you going to have Kemi? Probably nowhere. So it's quite nice, and of course beautifully unique. And I was very happy that actually they liked my write up so much that Voutilainen in Japan shared it in its entirety with my writing on their own Instagram page. I love that. It was a great honor for me, and hopefully more of that will come in due time with many other brands. This one kind of caught me off guard. I thought again in person, um, I had a very different experience than what I would think. I'm a big time Bulgari watch fanboy, as you guys know. A huge fan of the Octo Finissimo as a design, both in terms of the kind of homage it gives to original octagonal Jarajanta designs, but also in terms of the almost architectural approach that Fabrizio Buonamassa Stigliani brings onto the table. Of course, the green marble is something quite unique and very evocative of the Roman luxury that the name of the house evokes almost immediately. It has that sort of weight in terms of the inspiration, but since the watch is actually fashioned in black DLC coated titanium and is coated with the marble. It also has a marble dial. It actually feels light, wears beautifully. I'm not going to expose the person, but someone who was the manager of one of the most beautiful watch boutiques in Los Angeles actually put the watch on, and it was on her wrist for like half an hour on the first day, and no one could quite take it away or say no to this person. But it looked absolutely stunning. She looked absolutely stunning, I must say. This is also a flying tourbillon, and of course, in the tradition of the Octofinissimo, it was, at the time of its introduction, a world record, the thinnest flying tourbillon in um, in the entire world at the time. Hand wound movements. By the way, um, flying tourbillon simply means uh, there's no bridge to set it. There's no bridge that holds it down, so to speak, right? It's not like it's flying all over the place, but of course, without the bridge, a tourbillon is harder to execute, and it becomes perhaps more aesthetically pleasing um, because your vision of it is not impeded by any extra piece of metal. Oh, there was this too. Man, this is the Recepi chronometre antimagnétique. Unfortunately, it has the case back on, so we won't get to glimpse at the movements. But I have to say, um, to be in the presence of Jean-Pierre Agman case is quite something to begin with. I love that uh, stepped bezel design as well, but the lugs are truly voluptuous, absolutely sensual on the wrist, and even though Jean-Pierre Agman is mostly known for having made cases for Patek Philippe's chiming watches, this case design reminds me more of those old school Émile Vichet 24.99 perpetual calendar chronograph cases with their claw-like swooping lugs. It's an absolutely stunning piece. I like the uh, decidedly antiquated feel of the watch. Even the stuttering sweep of the center seconds is kind of romantic observation. The dial lives up to the name anti-magnétique, since this is inspired by those quote unquote scientific watches with scientific dials, sector dials, as we also sometimes call them. Um, you might say the colors on the dial have this Fotina look, but it doesn't really look like intentionally patinated. It's just a great aesthetic against the deep black dial. It has the feel of the feel you get from some of the best examples of a Rolex gilt dial, for example. And the case back is actually hand engraved as well in a pattern that represents in reverse the dial design and has a lightning bolt, um, as if to again pay homage to the scientific origins of the anti-magnetic watch. And of course, that pattern going inside and out also is an abstract representation of a magnetic field too. I think Recep Recepi once again hits all the right notes. Beautiful stainless steel, 300 piece. Looks very unassuming, but the case itself makes a huge statement, and it's hard not to fall in love with it, even without seeing what is actually the most significant part of the watch, which is the movement. I'll show a picture of that. Yeah, right. Look at those double steps on the bezel. It's an amazing, amazing watch. Let me see. Of course, the Only Watch website has a very nice picture of the movements. It's a screw down case. So that case back can be actually screwed off, which reveals an identifiably Recepi movements with quite an accentuated approach to anglage, thick bridge plates, a number of interior angles on display, and deep scoops for the Geneva waves as well that are decorating the bridge plates. I think there's a slightly closer look here. I mean, again, very predictable that this makes one of my top choices, but it's hard to resist. And honestly, again, the hospitality at Christie's was amazing, but that room they have, um, that exhibition room they have, the main room that you enter into in Beverly Hills at Christie's, it's designed for art exhibitions. It's a place you walk into to be immersed in sculpture, look at oversized paintings hung on the wall, not for watches. There was just way too much light in the entire space. And obviously, this is all the quality I can get or I could get from my iPhone 12. Hopefully, next time I will have a better camera, at least a better iPhone when I'm there. But I think much of my footage came out quite well under all these conditions. And last but not least, this is the Konstantin Chaikin Stargazer. It is one of the most ambitious pieces of design at Only Watch 2023. And with its 16 functions, it is actually also the most complicated of the lot. If you're interested in learning more about Konstantin Chaikin's horological art, please take a look at my coverage of uh, the auction that was dedicated to his work at in Aachen, Geneva, recently. I'm gonna send the link to the chat. Now, Chaikin gets a lot of flack for leaning perhaps too heavily onto the Joker watch and on the wrist mons or wrist monster series at large. These watches with googly eye time display and designs that take after cartoon villains, mythical creatures, and other monsters. But the story behind the whole thing is actually quite interesting and endearing. And I think um, it's time that people pay the due respect to the kind of watchmaker, to the kind of high horological master that Chaikin is, and Only Watch presents such an occasion. Chaikin is, of course, a long-standing member of the AHCI, which is short for Académie Horlogère des Créateurs Indépendants, the Zurich-based Academy of Independent Watchmakers. He is highly esteemed by his peers for his inventive realizations of classical complications with a unique twist. Of course, Chaikin's emergence into mainstream horological consciousness was completely arbitrary, if also truly well-deserved, and a result of a felicitous turn of events. When the movement for his Baselworld 2017 piece failed him in the 11th hour, Chaikin had to quickly put something together for the event. He seized the opportunity to channel his horological joy through the vessel of the Joker, a unique and contemporary rendition of the mid-century German rolling eye clocks. The googly eye time display and the unique moon phase indicator revealed through the character's sardonic smile made the wristwatch an instant hit. The 99-piece limited run sold out before the fair even concluded, and the Joker watch instantly became the flagship model for the brand. As you see, it wasn't even intentional. It wasn't even something planned or programmed. It just happened, and it gave, I think, Chaikin a well-deserved break because he is a real master of complications. In his creations for the Only Watch project, Chaikin usually chooses to bring together the recognizability of this trademark design with an eye to practicality and his signature penchant for innovation. The result is often a timepiece that delights the watch idiot savants and horological dilettantes alike. The Stargazer, which is lot number 33, is no exception. It is the most complicated wrist monster to date with its 16 functions. The shrewd implementation of the design allows the wearer to take full advantage of this high horological complexity. The Stargazer is fully reversible and it can be worn on both sides. Both sides feature an open-worked version of the anthropomorphic Joker dial that gratifies not only in its familiarity, but also in the simplicity and relative legibility of its display for complications. The primary dial displays a variety of calendrical complications, including equation of time, indicators for the length of the day and night, and the zodiac, whereas the reverse side allows you to gaze at the stars and admire the tourbillon on the wrist. Other makers may make you dream of this, right? I wish I could wear this watch um, to display the case back, but the genius of Chaikin's vision rests in his ability to invite you directly into the dream to openly indulge in it. The case is also made of a unique material, which has kind of become a tradition for Chaikin since the 2019 participation. It is executed in Bulat steel, which is a high carbon alloy of stainless steel that is often mistaken for Damascus steel due to its distinctly patterned and uniquely textured surface. This is one of the most ambitious creations at Only Watch 2023, and it offers the wearer an engagingly visual and highly tactile experience of horological indulgence, even with a few complications unprecedented in the history of watchmaking, for some of which the patents are still pending. And that goes for a lot of the functions on the case back, which includes a discrete moon phase and sunrise and sunsets azimuth indicators. Look at the texture of that case. Very unique. Has this kind of burnished look to it, but it's not. A solar activity cycle, a discrete moon phase right there, continuous moon phase here, and the sunrise and sunset indicators are up here on the primary dial, equation of time at the center, a 24-hour dial, zodiac calendar, as well as a retrograde um, day of the week through the smile, through the wry smile of the Joker. I guess this is also a great time to share the new Konstantin Chaikin release. You guys know a couple of months ago, he had released a regulator dial version of his creation. in two sizes as well, 39 and 42. The model is called the Time Eater, kind of a cyclops-like creature. And they have come back with another limited edition of 178 pieces. Which they call Dusk to Dawn, which again has a regulator dial layout and a darker theme with a bloodshot eye, and the 39 millimeter version, which I actually love, has a sand-blasted stainless steel case that is coated in black PVD. Beautiful, beautiful piece.
Они живые.
I love it. I mean, it's a very cute commercial. I really like it. Not a great actor, but certainly a fantastic watchmaker. These will be again sold at $4,000 a piece. Again, I think the small version, the 39 millimeter version with the black PVD treatments and kind of a bloodshot red tinted case back looks absolutely stunning. The larger piece is in stainless steel. Again, I believe also sandblasted. No, this time polished. And it's kind of a more elegant expression, so to speak. There's going to be kind of two-piece sets if you want to buy two of them, which is limited to 28 pieces. And there's actually a quadriptych, which includes the two previous editions too, like a 4-piece box set, which is going to be a limited edition of 8 pieces if you somehow wanted to own all the 4 pieces in this series. This is again Konstantin Chaikin's collaboration with Louis Erard, which used to be a pretty generic brand, but I think they, pardon me, they have had a new executive, a new CEO, if I'm not mistaken, for the last few years. And they have been doing very interesting series of collaborations with using largely the regulator dial layout that has become an identifiable visual signature of the brand, And I'm very happy that they have turned this into a collaboration with Chaikin as well. And you can see how there is this 4-piece box set now. I think only 8 pieces, which are already sold out. That was 15,900. The 2-piece box set, which has both of the pieces from this edition, might already be sold out as well, but let's see, maybe it's still available. No, the 2-piece box set is also sold, but the 178 pieces of the new edition, I think, still have a couple of pieces left. These have been quite popular, so if there's still a chance to get them, you should probably get in touch with them now. All right, so let's get back to our auction coverage. We are going to Paris for Sotheby's fine watches. This is an auction where you can bid on the pieces online as well. We took a look at a few pieces yesterday, leaving kind of the usual suspects to our coverage for today. This is the first lot of the auction, lot 350, which is a Rolex Daytona reference 6262 with a Paul Newman dial in the Panda style, black chronograph registers against a white background with those square end intervals and Art Deco numerals. The 6262 has, of course, a matching stainless steel tachometer bezel and pump pushers. And this particular example apparently comes from someone who owned the watch for 3 decades. The dial seems pretty well preserved. The case perhaps leaves something to be desired. The stainless steel case is matched with the original bracelets with matching end links, and the date code on the clasp indicates that it is contemporary to the watch from 1971. The watch has been recently serviced, apparently, by a specialized watchmaker and comes with a full documentation of that service and a detailed report. Pretty amazing looking piece. Again, the case will probably not pass the stringent standards of vintage, for example. It won't take their stamp of being unpolished, but otherwise, this is a pretty sexy looking watch. The pre-auction estimates for the piece was ranging from 128,000 to 235,000 US dollars roughly, and the piece is currently being bid at 149,501 in US dollars. By the way, please hit the like button and remember that all proceeds from super chats, super stickers, and super thanks are going to the children affected by the recent natural disasters in Morocco and Libya, namely the earthquake in Morocco and the floods in Libya. This is until October 12th. All the proceeds are going to be then donated on a live stream to the UNICEF. And until then, the first and last super chat of every live stream is also being entered into a raffle, with the winner getting the Sega 5 Rowing Blazers piece with the blue dial. And that is going to be chosen through a random number generator by Google on that same live show when we are going to make the donation. Just as a kind reminder, 351 is a 6263 in gold. You can almost immediately notice the difference beyond the particular material used or the execution of the dial. The 6263 has screw down pushers and a bakelite or acrylic bezel that is inserted into the ring, into a bezel ring that is fashioned out of the same material as the case. This is the kind of aesthetic that Rolex brought back on the 60th anniversary with the new Daytona family, with the new lineup. I think it is absolutely appropriate and a great homage to the history of the design. I kind of did a quick review of a lot of these elements of the Daytona design that made it the current lineup when the watch was first released. Let me see where I have that, because I do want to share the link with you for that. Hmm. There we go. This piece is from early 80s, roughly 1982. In yellow gold with a black dial and champagne tinted chronograph registers. This piece apparently comes from the family of its original owner, fresh to the market, and it looks, again, relatively well preserved, if not necessarily in an unpolished condition, on the matching gold bracelets. This is a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 6263 in yellow gold. The pre-auction estimate was roughly $75,000 to $128,000 US dollars. The piece is already in excess of that. It is currently being bid at 128,144 in US dollars. Another piece from the family of the original owner, and another Paul Newman Daytona, this time the reference 6241. Pump pushers and a bakelite acrylic bezel insert. Beautiful details on the dial against an off-white background. You have the black chronograph registers. You have, of course, a black hour track, black outer track, which is graduated in red for a finer measurement of the seconds. And of course, the Art Deco numerals on the chronograph registers, the Daytona writing in red. Beautiful and timeless aesthetics for this Rolex Daytona reference 6241. Which comes from the Annus Mirabilis 1968. A very beautiful year for Rolex. I wish I could own one of each from late 60s or specifically 1968. The piece is built on the Valjoux caliber 722, has the exotic Paul Newman dial, the acrylic bezel insert is I think beautiful. And it looks well preserved, and the watch is fitted with the correct contemporary bracelets and end links. The pre-auction estimate was $128,000 to almost $200,000 in US currency, and the piece is currently being bid at $149,501 in US dollars. Next up at lot 353, once again from the family of the original owner, we have a classic Panda Big Red silvered white background with black chronograph registers, red Daytona writing. This is once again a model with the bakelite acrylic inserts for the tachymeter bezel and screw down pushers. Hand wound caliber 727. The piece is from late 70s, roughly 1979. And it's the original bezel that is preserved here. This is probably, at least as much as the pictures allow it, probably one with a better case condition than some of the other examples that we have looked at. And interestingly, because it is quote unquote a less desired reference of the Rolex Daytona, it has a relatively smaller, relatively shorter estimate that ranges from $53,000 to 85,500 in US currency. The pieces being bid at 48,054 in US dollars. Feel free to send in any questions and requests you might have. And I just sent the link for the auction. So if you want me to highlight any particular lots, I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Next up is pre-Daytona chronograph, a Rolex reference 6234. With a white dial in stainless steel. The piece is built on the Valjoux 72 hand-wound chronograph caliber, 36 millimeters in diameter for the stainless steel case, which is fitted with a matching stainless steel oyster bracelets with the riveted links. A lot of desirable elements about this pre-Daytona chronograph. Part of its appeal is its rarity. It's understood to be around 2,300 examples, 2,300 examples in stainless steel. I also love the fact that they have a multimeter scale on the dials, which has inscribed in blue tachymeter on the periphery of the dial, and in a concentric circle inscribed in red, you also have a telemeter. The centrally deployed chronograph seconds is heat blued with gilt alpha hands for the hour and minutes, and leaf-shaped hands for the 3 chronograph registers, 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, 12-hour counter at 6, and the continuous running seconds at 9. Lot 354 which is again a Rolex pre-Daytona chronograph. In stainless steel with a silvered white dial from late 50s. The piece has a pre-auction estimate that ranges from 23,500, roughly speaking, to 37,500, and it has failed to attract any bids thus far. Lot 355 is another Rolex chronograph, this time from the immediate post-war period, roughly 1947. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I wanted to thank Ali Reza yesterday because, again, he very subtly gifted 5 memberships in the chats, and therefore Jake Brooks, Robert Cairns, uh, Bofaris, Johnson ACD, and G. Gadwa all became members of the channel. I appreciate you, Ali, and everyone who has joined in as members. This is a two-tone execution in pink, gold, and stainless steel with teardrop lugs and a fluted case band. The piece is really elegant. Anti-magnetic, reference 4062. A hand-wound caliber in a 36 millimeter case. And the piece with all its markings, the French inscriptions on the dial, as well as apparently the Fab Suisse markings on the movement itself, testifies that it has been made for the French market. A very interesting piece with a pre-auction estimate of roughly 10 to 16,000 in US dollars. The piece is currently being bid at 10,679 in US dollars. If you could click the like button if you haven't already, I would really appreciate that. It really, really helps, giving the live streams a little more exposure. It's really vital. And as always, if you could spread the word about the channel, if you could share the content, especially the kinds of contents, the 1 hour interviews, the 10 to 20 hour reviews, and even the shorts. If you could share some of that content, it would be great. It would help us expand the community. Hopefully, we will soon cross 2,000 subscribers as well. We're slowly but surely edging towards it, both on YouTube and on Instagram. So I would really appreciate your help in allowing me to do that, allowing me to reach that. You're looking at a gold Daytona with a diamond set Panda dial from the Zenith era. This is the 5 digits, 16528, the first generation of self-winding Rolex Daytona chronographs that were built on the base of Zenit El Primero caliber 400. Here you have 2-digit Arabic numerals for the seconds at the quarters, of course, with the coronets at 12 o'clock. Black outer rings for the chronograph registers, which give it that characteristic panda look, red Daytona writing, and the diamonds for the hour markers. The piece, of course, is an oyster case with screw-down crowns and a tachymeter bezel in matching 18-karat yellow gold. The piece is, of course, fitted with the 18-karat yellow gold bracelets and comes with its original wooden presentation case, warranty papers, as well as Rolex wallets to hold those papers. I wish Rolex would bring back some art into the contemporary presentation boxes. I know it's about recognizability. I know it's about the brand image, but having something special more than just a bigger box for the more niche, the more rare, the more desirable models, I don't think that would hurt. This is a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, reference 16528 from around 1993, yellow gold with a panda dial, diamond set at the factory. The piece had an estimate, a pre-auction estimate that ranged from 21,400 roughly to more than $37,000. The current bid is right around $23,500. JB, who is a member of the channel, so generous as always, $49.99. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you get another number for the raffle. This is great. This is great. Let's see if we can beat the previous donation, guys. We, you know, for the children of Syria and Turkey, we had raised $725 together back earlier in the year. Hopefully, we will raise even more this time. Let's shoot for 750. If we get more, it's even better. Let me get my pencil so I note this. We already have roughly $120. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We have some time to go. We have the two-tone version of the same generation. This time with a Panda dial that has gilt fixtures, of course, to match the gold bezel, pushers, and the crown. And of course, the polished center links of the oyster bracelets as well. This is lot 357. JB, of course, has a beautiful example of the 16520, the all stainless steel sibling of this particular watch with the white dial, which I think is the most beautiful and most versatile. Here is the wooden box that was, of course, preserved for the two-tone and full gold models. The chronometer certificate of the watch, a later service guarantee, and a red hang tag as well. And here's the original papers for the watch. Great piece. If you think about it, I think the two-tone version of the 5-digit generation of the Zenith Daytona, so to speak, is one of the best bargains in the entire market of Daytonas. This piece, for example, has not even attracted any bids, and the pre-auction estimate was 12,814 to the excess of 19,000 in US dollars. Of course, the usual caveats apply, right? Especially for an auction, if you're bidding from abroad, there's going to be all sorts of fees and dues potentially at customs. Of course, there's already a buyer's premium in excess of 20%. It changes from one auction house to another. I don't always know it off the top of my mind, but that's something you need to figure in. And of course, I would always recommend that you take a very close look at the watches yourself, study them yourself, see it in person at the exhibitions if you can, or at least send someone and inspect them by proxy, so to speak. And as always, if you are really hell-bent on bidding in one of the watches, I'm more than happy to help you with the process. And you should always reach out directly to the auction house, to the representatives, and figure out whether they can give you any additional information, share with you detailed condition reports, and perhaps more photographs. Maybe they can arrange like a Zoom call or something for you to get a better and more personal look at some of this stuff. I mean, you're the client, so you deserve that sort of treatment if it comes down to it. This is a great piece as well. Again, from the same generation, it's 16518, meaning it is the yellow gold version with the solid end links. Well, fixed end links, I should say. Solid end link means something a little different in the Rolex realm, as you know. Presented on the leather band. And with the black dial, this is a very intense and beautiful look for the Daytona as well. Again, a potential bargain, especially if you are looking for a precious metal Daytona, especially if you are interested in the contemporary Oyster Flex models and you like wearing your watches on leather straps. This can be a nice compromise as well. Again, the model name is the reference number rather is 16518. And the piece is presented on a leather strap and of course matched with an 18 karat yellow gold déployant clasp as well. Very beautiful watch, very versatile watch. I think can be quite dressy when the occasion demands it, but a precious metal chronograph on leather strap really works for just about any occasion. And there is certainly enough contrast on the dial because it's not entirely in black. It has those champagne tinted outer dials on the chronograph registers, which resonate beautifully, of course, with the 18 karat gold bezel and all the other gold details of the watch. This was lot 358 for a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 16518. The pre-auction estimates ranged roughly from $16,000 to $28,000, with the starting bid being at the lower end of that estimate. At 360, we have the 50th anniversary edition of the Daytona. Of course, from 2016, not from 2013, but the Platinum Daytona with the maroon bezel and the ice blue dial was introduced on the 50th anniversary of the model in 2013. And even though it took a while for it to really hit its stride, even though it was a slow burner, it quickly became one of the most popular and desirable iterations of what was the first hype watch of the 21st century. And it looks like nothing else, honestly, in the lineup. I think it's both quite quirky and striking in its own way. And of course, the tradition is now continued with the 126,506, but this is the 116,506, which was introduced at Basel World 2013 on the 50th anniversary of the model. It was the first Platinum Daytona to be produced in the series. Of course, Patrick Heinecke had those very special handful of platinum Daytonas from the late 90s that he gifted to a few very important friends of the brand. I think he wore one himself as well. He loved wearing platinum pieces. And I think this piece is as good of an homage to the legendary Rolex president, even though it came after he had moved on, after, in fact, he had passed, basically, because Patrick Heinegger passed away on March 3rd, 2013. Of course, Basel Worlds, I think, took place in April at the time, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I kind of remember. It must have been at the end of April, like last week of April or something. And this is what I mean, by the way. Look, I mean, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with the green Rolex box. It's instantly recognizable, it's uniform. Every model is presented in some version of it. And the precious metal ones are just a little bit bigger, right? Whereas you had all these not entirely unique, but kind of more characteristic examples of presentation boxes in Rolex, especially for the more niche models. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. And I kind of miss that. This, by the way, has not yet attracted any bids. And the pre-auction estimate is $75,000 to $118,000 roughly, which doesn't sound so bad when you think of it. There's, of course, an example of this model with a dial set with baguette cut diamonds. Which is, I think, even more striking. But this example too, with the maroon outer rings on the chronograph registers matching the maroon Cerachrome bezel for the tachymeter, is not so bad either. This is lot 360 for a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 50th anniversary edition in platinum with the reference number 116506. JB says, I came out pretty good on the 16520. It's great. I'm so happy for you. That's an amazing watch. It's a cracking timepiece. I love it. And JB says, I like the symmetry on the 5-digit, but the concentric circles on the 116518 makes it sparkle that much more. Well, I mean, you have them both. So enjoy them in their different ways, right? Those are all amazing pieces. Lot 362 is the now discontinued Rolex stainless steel Daytona with the black dial 116500 LN. This was part of a pair with the Panda dial that introduced the ceramic bezels into the Daytona lineup in 2016. This particular example is from 2018. And it likewise comes with its original cards and presentation box. The estimated value of the piece is from 18,000 to almost 30,000 in US dollars, and it is currently being bid at 21,358 in US dollars. I skipped a few Daytonas here and there. Again, if you have any special requests, feel free to send in the lot numbers with a super chat, and I'll be more than happy to delve deeper into it chronologically with you. A very beautiful early gold GMT Master follows up at lot 363. As you can see, this is a reference 6542. So the OG root beer, so to speak, with bakelite 24-hour bezel in a striking burgundy. A beautifully patinated nipple dial that has almost taken on this purplish hue. Alpha hands for the hour and minutes that have been inlaid with luminous material, and the small arrow hand for the 24 hours. Beautiful, beautiful piece. No crown guards, of course. It's a very pure early version, beautifully preserved on the matching riveted 18 carats yellow gold oyster bracelets. It actually looks pretty good. I usually like these pieces both in gold and in stainless steel matched with a Jubilee bracelets. I think root beer somehow fits more beautifully, if not necessarily more properly, on the Jubilee bracelets. But this one looks so amazing as it is. I wouldn't change a thing about it. Lot 363 has an estimated value that ranges from 106,790 to an amount in excess of 210,000 in US dollars. The piece has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid would be in excess of 96,000 in US dollars. I do have the transitional reference with the nipple dial in two-tone 16753. it needs to go to service, though. It's about to it's about to give up the ghost, the movement. It's not winding properly. I mean, it winds fine on the rotor. Let me put that way. Let me put it that way. Um, but when you try to wind it by hand, it gives a little bit of a problem. But yeah, I love that watch. I was just wearing it a couple of days ago. Speaking of early GMT Masters with bakelite bezels, this is a 6542 in stainless steel in the original Pan Am design, so to speak, in the original iteration of the Pepsi bezel, with the reds presenting the daylight hours and the blue for the nights. The dial and the hands have aged pretty evenly into this eggshell like color, which is very beautiful. And the 24-hour hand has a small arrow tip. Once again, no crown guards and a small crown for this piece in stainless steel with a pretty sharp original case that is matched with riveted oyster bracelets. By the way, my friend Charlie Dunn, who is, of course, the director of research and content at Wind Vintage and a senior specialist, he has just come up with a beautiful collector's guide for the reference 1675 in stainless steel at windvintage.com. Please feel free to check it out. That's, of course, a long-standing, long-serving reference for the Rolex GMT Master that followed upon the footsteps of the original 6542. This piece at lot 364 has an estimated value that ranges from 32,000 to an amount in excess of 64,000 in US dollars, but the piece has not yet attracted any offers. Speaking of 1675, here's a fuchsia version of that iconic 4-digit reference for the GMT Master. This is, of course, one of the happy accidents of the kind of quote-unquote faulty or defective material Rolex used from a number of different suppliers at the time, which meant that these colors faded, patinated, turned in unexpected ways, which give every single vintage example its own character. This particular piece from roughly around 1967 has, in fact, the reds turned into this pinkish hue of purple, which we might simply call fuchsia. And it is, as you can see, very beautifully patinated and with a rather sharp case, presented on a matching Jubilee bracelet, which makes the watch quite unique and attractive. That's why lot 365 is already being bid at an amount in excess of $17,000, which has shot through the ceiling of the pre-auction estimate as well. Lot 367 is the first reference, the first introduction of GMT Master 2, the new movements which allowed for the independent adjustment of the hour hands, meant that it was a little thicker. So the case ended up being fat lady. This is apparently also what they call a spider dial, with the lacquer of the black dial having cracked. Another defect, which you might consider simply a fault or a charming detail, depending on your perspective. This is from around 1984. Which was, of course, close to the introduction of the GMT Master 2, with this distinctive quote-unquote Coke bezel, a combination of red and black. Some people really swear by these. I prefer the 16710, an example of which I have from the late 90s, but these are just great. I wouldn't pay premium for them, but the Fat Lady, or Sophia Loren, as they sometimes call it, is certainly worth a look if you're looking for GMT Master 2 with vintage charm, but some kind of contemporary appeal. This piece has not yet attracted any offers, but the estimated value ranges from 10,679 to an amount in excess of 16,000 in US dollars. Speaking of which, here's 16710 with the Pepsi bezel, slightly faded. Beautiful ceramic example of the GMT Master 2. More streamlined, of course. This example is from around 2001. So you get a dial that is functionally luminous, a Holz case, which still gives you a certain modularity if you want to pop out that bracelet and strap it on a NATO or a leather strap. Of course, solid end links as well from this time period, which gives the watch a great element of everyday wearability. Here you can see it as a full set. Box, papers, product literature, among other things. This is lot 368 for a Rolex GMT Master 2, reference 16710 in stainless steel. The Pepsi. The piece has a pre-auction estimate of 10,679 to an amount in excess of 16,000 in US dollars. At 373, we have a red sub, a Submariner with red writing, with a meters first dial, with a beautiful, slightly domed top hat style bezel too. Look at that from the profile. Positively seductive. This is roughly from around 1970 with a Mark III dial. Reference 1680. Beautiful red sub with a meters first dial with a Mark III dial. The piece has not yet attracted any offers, but the pre-auction estimates roughly ranges between 16,000 to an amount in excess of 25,000 in US dollars. The piece comes from the family of the original owner, apparently, which makes it quite desirable and interesting. That was lot 373. Lot 375 is, again, one of the iconic pre-ceramic references, the last of an era, so to speak. A no-date sub, a Rolex Submariner reference 14060M. M referring to the modified, improved movements. This piece still has a Holz case, a solid end link oyster bracelet in matching stainless steel, of course, a luminous dial and sapphire crystal. It's roughly from 2005 in a nicely worn, used but not abused condition and look. Certainly to be appreciated. And it has, I think, one of the most beautifully designed and balanced dials. You guys know that I prefer anything and everything Rolex before year 2000. Um, but these kinds of transitional models, I think, still cut the mustard, having a lot of the modern build quality, but also designs and proportions that don't stray too far away from the established norms of the classics. This two-liner no date Submariner at lot 375, namely the reference 14060M, is a beautiful specimen of that sort. And it is currently being bid at 5,340 in US dollars. I'm going to take a short break to get a refreshing drink for myself. In the meantime, once again, if you want me to highlight any of the pieces on this auction, if you want me to take a closer look at any one of these lots, please feel free to send me the lot number with a super chat, and I will happily dive into it with lots of historical and horological detail. Here's the link. You can click and you can get back to me with a reference, with number, with the lot number. Take a look at this Nautilus moon phase while I'm gone. I'll be right back. It will only take a couple of minutes. Please hit the like button. I appreciate your help and support. right, I'm back. I am back. You're looking at what I think is the first genuinely complicated, or the first complication introduced to the Nautilus series. Of course, that was done with the predecessor of this model, 3712, with the asymmetric dial, moon phase indicator, and of course, powered by the microrotor caliber that comes from the lineage of caliber 240. Of course, the so-called comet, the reference 3710, is usually proposed as the first complicated Nautilus timepiece, but that's really just a power reserve indicator. Is that actually a complication? I don't know. It doesn't really make the grades for me, but this certainly does. Um, the Nautilus moon phase is a delightfully slender watch. With its additional complications, it's only about 0.2 millimeters thicker than the 5711, than its contemporary jumbo time and date version. It has, of course, the off-center seconds, the power reserve indicator that is situated right between 10 and 11, and also the oversized pointer dates between 6 and 8 o'clock that wraps itself around the moon phase indicator as well. As you can see, this is an example that is before Patek's transition into its own Patek Philippe seal, so to speak. Um, the watch still carries the Geneva hallmark. Sorry, guys, I'll be right back. All right, my apologies. I'm back now. This is before Patek's transition to their own uh, seals. As you can see, the movement is still marked with the seal of the Geneva Canton, the hallmark of Geneva, on the caliber 240, which has a full gold micro rotor decorated with the same Côte de Genève pattern and embossed with the Calatrava cross. Here you can see the slimness of the watch. And the piece, as you can see, Comes with its original presentation box, as well as the certificate of origin and the leather bifold wallet that carries the original product literature. This is lot 376 with a pre-auction estimate that ranges from roughly $64,000 to almost 107,000 in US dollars. The piece has not yet attracted any bids, but surely it will. That is the Patek Philippe Nautilus Moon Phase, reference 5712. Lot 379 is a white gold Patek Philippe perpetual calendar with leaf-shaped hands and applied Breguet numerals against the background of a black dial. This is a very recent model. Again, beautifully executed on the basis of that micro rotor caliber 240Q. The piece comes with its original papers and product literature, with also a winding cylinder that will keep it in good stead in a perpetual manner. Captain, also a member of the channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you for adding to the pot that we are going to share with UNICEF after October 12th, $9.99. Also a member of the channel. Great watch content, great charity. Spread the word. JB says, were the standards lowered when they began certifying themselves? Look, I'm not going to smear the name of Patek Philippe just like that with one broad brush. But the main reason Patek Philippe removed itself from the whole Geneva seal process did not actually involve any of these apocryphal stories that go around, you know, about lesser brands having applied and successfully gotten the Geneva seals or whatnot. It has a lot to do with Patek's single-minded insistence of switching to silicon hairsprings and other silicon components for the watch movement. That doesn't fit with the Geneva Seal standards, so they had to go their own way. Now, of course, many people will tell you that the standards have gone down considerably, but I think it's not simply about the finishing of the movements or their assembly or regulation. Patek has just changed enormously from 2009 until now. Like the just the aura around the brands changed. I'm not necessarily saying dissipated. I'm not saying at all it is a lesser brand now, but what people associated with Patek, even in early 2000s and now in year 2023, is, I think, quite distinct. I'm not going to say diametrically opposite. Again, I'm not interested in making some grand statements, but I do have a nostalgic attachment with pre 2009 Rolex. Uh, wow, what a Freudian slip. With pre 2009 Patek. I guess that tells you everything about where my allegiances are. But yes, I think there's something special about smaller cases, more classic designs. Of course, they happen to come with that famous hallmark, which doesn't hurt. So, yeah. This, however, is a very recent and quite beautiful perpetual calendar with a moon phase indicator powered by a micro rotor movement with applied Breguet numerals and leaf-shaped hands. By the way, it's a blue dial. I don't know why I said black. Uh, Perhaps looks even more beautiful. And with a pre-auction estimate that ranged from 32,000 to an amount in excess of 64,000 in US dollars, this piece is being currently bid at 42,716 in US dollars. JB, of course. Look, I mean, a lot of legacy brands and a lot of big time makers have their own standards. JLC has master control. Um, Rolex certifies their own watches as superlative chronometer. Um, but then again, we still appreciate it when brands like Chopard, Chopard LUC, especially, send their watches to COSC for chronometer certification. We appreciate when Omega and Tudor use Metas for even more stringent standards. I really admired the very ambitious project that they started building up in Fleurier, which didn't go anywhere in the long run, for their own quality certification, the QF, Qualité Fleurier. I still appreciate that, right? It just makes more sense that for certain kinds of standards that there would be an external certifier, that there would be a third party who can actually look over their shoulder, so to speak. Please hit the like button, by the way. That really helps. That always helps if you haven't done so already. 380 is actually one of my favorite Patek Philippe perpetual calendars in the neo vintage era, and I find it also an incredible bargain in a tonneau shaped case, kind of a tortue like case. This is the 5040G, kind of Patek tortue in white gold with a black dial, English calendar with applied Arabic numerals, a railroad track for the minutes. Once again, the piece is built on the lineage of caliber 240, 240Q. Micro rotor, delightfully slender, with a 22 carats full gold micro rotor, decorated with Côte de Genève and embossed with the Calatrava cross. Beautiful, beautiful piece. The piece also comes with an extract from the archives. No box and papers, but again, at least an extract from the archives. Fantastic design, great legibility, and a very unique case shape that, if you appreciate, it will give you a great deal when it comes to these neo-vintage perpetual calendars, and a Patek Philippe branded one at that. The pre-auction estimates ranged from roughly $32,000 to an amount in excess of $64,000. The piece has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid is right on the verge of 30,000 in US dollars. This is the Patek Philippe perpetual calendar in a tortue-shaped white gold case and a black dial. The dimensions of this case are right around 36 millimeter. So it's very elegant and certainly not too small, especially with the unique shaping of the case. You will have a lot of wrist presence. Again, the case shape is an acquired taste, and I highly recommend that you acquire that taste because it is absolutely brilliant. Lot 381 is another relative bargain when it comes to Patek Philippe. This is the dual time Calatrava 5134G in white gold, 37 millimeter case that has a slightly more enhanced presence with the counterbalance of the crown guards on the one hand and the pushers that allow you to move independently the hour hands, the local hour hands, back and forth 1 hour at a time. As you can see, the piece has applied white gold rhodium plated Breguet numerals and an additional hour hand in white gold for the reference time. There's also a 24-hour hand that follows the reference time and serves as a day and night indicator as well. And of course, a sector style subsidiary dial at 6 for the small seconds too. This is lot 381. Beautiful hand-wound movements for this Calatrava travel time in white gold, reference 5134G. Here you can see the original box and papers, as well as the leather bifold wallet that holds the product literature. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Very underrated piece, and usually a bargain among neo-vintage Patek Philippe watches. Again, quite a unique style. Not everyone's cup of tea, but certainly an interesting and an interesting piece with a very useful complication at that. This was Nick Fox's sleeper pick when it comes to collecting Patek Philippe watches, especially if you are hunting still for a kind of bargain. Estimated value of this piece is ranging from roughly around $13,000 to an amount in excess of 19,000. JB, I get it. I get the Iron Mike reference when it comes to this, because that was a 3970, which had a black dial. So absolutely. But of course, that was a perpetual calendar chronograph. Um, so maybe similar aesthetics, but of course, a different case and complication. And that piece, as you know, had also a dial that was changed at the factory for Iron Mike himself, because he wanted a very specific kind of look, as you would remember. Let me see if I can quickly bring it up so the rest of the audience knows what we're talking about. I don't know why I lost it, because I had written about it on my Instagram. So I'm trying to fish it back from there. Hmm. Yeah, I can't locate it immediately, so I'm not gonna waste any more time. But yeah, of course, that was a 3970p that once belonged to Mike Tyson and had a dial swap, basically, to kind of give it the appearance of a 5004p. And of course, since that has a dial with applied Arabic numerals, I can see where you are getting that vibe. By the way, they also have two other interesting Calatravas. Yellow gold version of the dual time Calatrava that we were just looking at. Yeah, but that's with the original dial, right? The one JB just sent me a post by me. This is the 3970 EP. So platinum waterproof case. Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph. Very recently, an online auction from the Gulf had Mike Tyson's own example with a dial that was swapped out from a 5004P. So the applied Arabic numerals dial from the perpetual calendar split second chronograph. And you could certify that because the watch actually came with a certificate of origin that was written out in Mike Tyson's name. And it matched the dial as well, the description of the watch there. But thank you, JB, for sharing that. This is a 5134J. We were just looking at a 5134G with the white gold dial. Same design, same case dimensions, 37 millimeters. The same logic, again, of the two extra pushers, which help you quickly cycle through time zones, back and forth, 1 hour at a time for the local time. Great design, still connected to the ancestors through Louis Cotier's original design of the complication. Louis Cotier, of course, being the same person who implemented the world time to the world of wristwatches and shared his expertise with Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe Calatrava travel time 5134J with a pre-auction estimates of 10,700 almost, to an amount in excess of 16,000 in US dollars. Five to one Taipei. Are you going to be at Watch Time New York? You can see security remove Archie. No, I'm not going to be at Watch Time New York, but I am going to be at Watch Time Los Angeles this Friday. It is going to be at South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, California. Come say hi. I'm going to have shaved my beard, so I might look a little different. But please come say hi if you are in Southern California. I'd love to meet each and every one of you. We're looking at the Sotheby's Paris Fine Watches auction. If you have any questions, if you have any requests, please feel free to send them in with a super chat. And if you want me to look at any of these particular lots, you can send the lot number in the same way. I'll be more than happy to dive right in some serious horological and historical detail, At 390, we have the modern root beer. It's a pink gold watch on an oyster bracelet with a black dial. So I'm not even sure to call it a root beer, but this is nicknamed thus by modern collectors. I do respect it. Reference 126715 CHNR with the two-tone 24-hour bezel as well, which is a mix of burgundy and black with copper tone details. Quite a striking watch in its own way. Just from last year, with as a full set with everything that goes with it at lot 390. And the piece is currently being bid at almost 30,000 in US dollars. At 392 is the so-called Sprites, the GMT Master 2 Destro, the one with the flipped movements, the one that's supposedly meant to be for lefties, supposedly meant to be worn on the right hand. This is also from the last year's Watches and Wonders release as well. Again, for the first time in serial production, Rolex made a Destro GMT with the crown at 9 o'clock. And unlike previous examples of the GMT Master and dive watches that they had produced, it was not only the crown, but also the date window, as well as the Cyclops magnifier that is shifted to the same side of the case. This piece was selling for immense premiums when it first came out, but it plunged pretty severely. Its fate coinciding also with the crash of the markets. So this particular example at lot 392 of the 126720 VTNR has not yet attracted any offers, but the starting bid would be right under 15,000 in US dollars, with the estimate ranging from that amount to an amount in excess of 21,000 in US dollars. Please hit the like button, by the way. I really, really do appreciate you. I'm gonna very quickly grab my Gatorade while you look at this 50th anniversary edition of the Submariner, otherwise known as the Kermit. This is, of course, one of the later examples from year 2010. Early examples that are closer to the actual 50th anniversary with the so-called flat 4 bezels. Especially those with the Y serials are the most desired. But this is a great example, of course, of the model that Rolex introduced in 2003 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of its iconic sports watch, its iconic modern dive watch, the Submariner, with using their proprietary color green for the aluminum bezel inserts. Otherwise, of course, this piece is no different from its contemporary Submariner dates, 166610 as its reference number indicates, with lunettes verte LV for the green bezel. There we go. So let's finish this. This is the Kermit from 2010. The Submariner dates from the pre-ceramic era with the aluminum bezel insert. The piece has the outer packaging, the original warranty card, as well as the presentation box. The estimates ranged from roughly $10,000 to an amount in excess of $21,000, and this Submariner dates Kermit is currently being bid at around 11,750 in US dollars. So we were looking at that Patek Perpetual calendar in the tonneau shaped case from the previous page. And JB was talking us about how the dial configuration reminded him of Mike Tyson's Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar chronograph, which was recently sold. It was this particular piece, the 3970 EP, with a special dial, basically, with a dial that makes it look like its contemporary 5004 Ps, the Perpetual Calendar split-second chronographs, which had exactly this sort of black dials with applied Arabic numerals. So you can kind of see the aesthetic similarity between the two dials. At lot 407, we have the 5-digit Explorer 2 with the black dial, of course, with the polar white dial being more popular. This one might qualify as something more low-key. The piece is from around 2002, which means that it has a lot of these charming elements of an older vintage or neo-vintage Rolex with the no-holes case, but of course it has the solid end-link bracelets, a super luminova dial with functional luminous material on the dial, sapphire crystal, great everyday wearability, even as it has the particular look of 5-digit neo-vintage Rolex. This particular piece has its box and original papers here presented in a green Rolex wallet. And here's the original papers. This is the 5-digit Explorer 2 at lot 407. Reference 16570. The piece is currently being bid at 5,877 in US dollars, with the ceiling of the pre-auction estimate hovering right above 9,000 in US dollars. We have entered roughly the last hour or so, 40 minutes to an hour. At lot 412, you're looking at a Rolex Explorer Super Precision. This is the reference 5500, kind of a junior version of the Explorer in what is essentially an Air King case of the time, in what is essentially an Air King reference of the time. This is basically a reference 5500 with a gilt Explorer dial, 34 millimeters in diameter for the stainless steel case, fitted on an oyster bracelet with folded links, as you can see here. This is a mid-60s piece, which has a case that's been perhaps a little too enthusiastically polished, even for my taste. And the piece has a pre-auction estimate that ranges from around 8,500 to an amount that almost reaches 13,000 in US dollars. JB 499. Thank you so much. I did go back. Are you following a little further from the back, perhaps? Maybe press the live button and catch up with the stream. I just followed up upon the original Christie's listing that sold the 3970 AP that once belonged to Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson. G. Gadwa, member of the channel, which is the watch that Higgins butchered? I don't understand. Who cut the crown guard off from a sub? I don't understand. Please explain. But thank you again for the contribution, JB. So we're looking at Sotheby's France Fine Watches auction, which has a lot of the usual suspects, but also some interesting oddballs that we discussed from yesterday night as well. But here's an interesting piece. This is a Rolex day date with an Italian date wheel. The 5-digit reference 18038, single quick sets, which means that you can correct the dates, but not the day from the crown. So the resetting of the watch, at least for some people, can get a little old, can get a little tiring, but I think it is absolutely worth it. Here you have it with a beautiful wooden dial, which is something that basically you only see in these vintage and neo-vintage Rolex day dates and Datejusts. Classic 36 millimeter day date case, presented on a Rolex alligator strap with a matching 18 karat yellow gold pin buckle. Beautiful, beautiful piece with a very rich color and pattern on the wooden dial. You guys know my general position on these day dates and Datejusts with quote unquote exotic dials. A lot of times they go for unreasonable premiums on auctions. So I would rather decide on what day date reference that I would want to get. I consider the 18238 the best compromise. Great bang for the buck. It also has it is also the first reference that introduced the double quick set function, where you can set both the day and date quickly from the crown. I would rather hunt for something like that: 1803, 18038, 18238. Get the best watch my money can buy, get the watch in the best condition, and then hunt for a special dial for it. Because as it is, for example, this watch doesn't come with any box papers or any other identifying documents. You would basically never know if the watch actually came with this dial or not. There's no surefire way of knowing that. So why pay the premium in that sense, right? If the dial is the only thing you're looking for. Anyways, that's my mini rant. That doesn't take away at all from how beautiful of a watch that lot 418 is. And it does have a reasonable estimated value here, ranging from around 8,500 to an amount in excess of 16,000, and the piece is currently being bid at 8,548 in US dollars. Again, the same generation, 18038s, classic Rolex day dates in yellow gold on the presidential bracelets, fluted bezel, champagne dial, the absolutely classic look. Jesus Christ, what a fucking idiot. That guy, man, he has serious problems. Uh, this is lots for 419 again, with a recent service in the January of this year, still with the service stickers intact on the watch. A Rolex day dates from the single quickset generation, meaning that you can correct only the dates, but not the day from your crown. with the bracelets, as you can see, having some stretch. That's another thing to look for, of course, with vintage and neo-vintage Rolex watches. This is a classic Rolex day-dates from the mid-80s, roughly from 1987 here. And this piece is currently being bid at $9,082 in US dollars. We had taken a look at this open-worked Royal Oak Jumbo yesterday, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it's certainly a very beautiful piece from 2011. I think it was in 20... I want to see that there was a version that they produced in the 40th anniversary in 2012 that's actually exposes the date wheel that I want to show as a counterpart to this. This is 15305. It preserves the dimensions of the classic Royal Oak Jumbo that, of course, has a history going all the way back to 1972 and the reference 5402. But this one doesn't have a date indicator and has, in addition to the open worked treatment, a sweep center seconds hand. And there was an open worked version of the Jumbo produced in 40 examples for the 40th anniversary, which had this particular treatment with the exposed date wheel, which is given kind of a prominent attention along the perimeter of the dial. Very interesting look with a rotor that carries the dates for the 40th anniversary, 1972 to 2012, a limited run of 40 pieces, a pretty cool treatment, pretty cool example of the Jumbo selling for exorbitant prices. I don't know if it is selling, honestly, but being listed for exorbitant prices on the secondary market, that's for sure. But 15305 is a more humble watch, relatively speaking, and it has an estimated value of $96,000 roughly to $150,000. And the piece has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid would be right around $75,000 in US dollars. I'm gonna go grab a quick drink. I'll leave you with lot 424, which is an AP perpetual calendar, AP Royal Oak perpetual calendar from mid-80s, 25554BA, only number 14 of these gold Royal Oak perpetual calendar that were produced. All right, we are back. We are back. We are looking at number 014 of the reference 25554BA. This was a very early variant, only the second reference number for the Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar. After the 5554, I believe the 2554 had a slightly thicker case compared to the early 4-digit reference, if I'm not mistaken. Or I might be confusing it with what followed upon the 2554, which was 25654. And maybe that had a thicker case and better water resistance. But anyway, I won't belabor the point. I think this is a beautiful piece with a champagne dial, very balanced in its layout, kind of a 4-subdial layout or 3 subdials, and the moon phase aperture at 6 o'clock. I love how the calendar indicators are heat blued, which allows them to be both distinguished from the gold hands for the hour and minutes, but also play wonderfully along with the blue backgrounds of the moon phase indicator. This is, of course, again, a delightfully slender, beautifully thin watch. Of course, the newer, more modern, more contemporary versions of the perpetual calendar in the Royal Oak case are more technically advanced, right? They have the leap year indicator, they have a weekly calendar that's pointed along the perimeter of the dial. But they're also much busier. I really like the more simplified aesthetics of these early references. This piece is currently being bid at 64,140 in US dollars, and the estimated value is between that and an amount that is almost 107,000 in US dollars. A lot of interesting Royal Oaks as well. We looked at a lot of Daytonas. Probably we're going to do the same with the Royal Oak. 426 is 14802BA, which is an example of the 20th anniversary Royal Oak that was introduced in 1992 in yellow gold. This was the first time that the Royal Oak Jumbo received the exhibition caseback treatment. The entire reference was produced in 1,000 examples. Only 300 of those were in yellow gold. Which is the case with the present example. The exhibition caseback gave a Nobel treatment to caliber 2021, which is based, of course, on the ultra-thin Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 920, the 21 carats gold rotor is open worked and has a design that evokes the octagonal details of the original Jarajanta design. And it's inscribed, as you can see, with the series number as well as the commemoration of the Royal Oak Jubilee. This is again only one of 300 pieces with a wooden octagonal presentation case. Love, love, love the German product literature that accompanies it, die Kraft der Tradition. The power of tradition. Oh, Jeremy Butcher. My opinion on the Daniel Roth Premier Retrograde Leather Watch, $10, and a member of the channel. Jeremy, thank you so much. My opinion is an absolute buy, an absolute must. I love the Daniel Roth brand. I love the Premier Retrograde. It's, to me, at the same level of interest as the Jump Hour Retrograde minutes that I have from Jarajanta. It might not be the most luxurious or horologically complicated or prestigious example of the brand, but it is one of those designs, it is one of those complications that is very playful, that presents something essential about the brand, even if it comes from a period when the brand became more popularized, where it was not necessarily run as an independent anymore, where it was bought by the Hourglass and started making more watches, more pieces in stainless steel. This is an absolutely unacceptable price if you are getting it in stainless steel, and that reference number is the one for the stainless steel, by the way, 807L10. I don't think you should pay more than 7.5. 6 would be a great deal. About 7K, I think, is fair for a watch in good condition. I think the salmon dials are stunning. I think the two-tone silver dials are stunning as well. The case shape, I think, is a work of art, immediately recognizable, very unique. The salmon and silver dials have heat blued arrow hands, whereas I believe black, blue, etc., those dials have, um, I believe, white hands. And I really love this design. This is a concept that Daniel Roth adopted from a tourbillon pocket watch that George Daniels made and presented in his famous watchmaking book. That watch had a retrograde hour hand that traveled from 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock. This one is from 6 to 6. It's kind of a happy hour watch, because uh, it has this downward facing crescent for the hour scale that flips uh, at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. So in the morning and at the end of your workday, so to speak. Um, and in the original Daniel Roth pieces that were made in the early years, the subdial was for running seconds. In the more serially produced model, it was adapted to become a pointer date, which I think is actually very cool and very utilitarian. I love this model. I absolutely adore it. For me, it's a must buy. Highly recommended. Let me know if you have any more questions, Jeremy. But yeah, that's my short ode to Daniel Roth and the Premier Retrograde, which from the more commercial period of the brand is my absolute favorite model. I love the Le Sentier as well, the time and date watch, which also comes on the integrated quote unquote Lego bracelets. But the Premier Retrograde is probably my favorite. All right, we have about 15 minutes. As you guys know, the first and last super chats gets a ticket into the raffle, a number for the raffle for the sake of 5 Rowing Blazers watch. So far it's Jake Brooks for the first, Jeremy Butcher for the last one. And as you know, all the proceeds from super chats, super stickers, super thanks, all go to UNICEF to benefit the children who have been affected by the recent natural disasters in North Africa, earthquakes in Morocco, and the floods in Libya. Speaking of the Royal Oak and the original reference that goes all the way back to 1972, this is reference 5402, not ST, but SA. So this is the two-tone execution, which means that the stainless steel case and bracelet is complemented by an 18-karat yellow gold bezel. The tapering interlinks of the bracelet are also rendered in gold, and the dial fixtures against that classic night blue dial are also in gold. The classic jumbo dial with the initials fixed at 6 o'clock and the signature as well as automatic inscribed at 12 o'clock. Two-hander piece with no seconds hand and a date indicator at 3. This is the original Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo. in its two-tone version, number 63 of this particular model, produced pretty early. Imagine if it's actually from 1977. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's from 1977, meaning it's number 63 means that they basically made 10 to a dozen examples of this in two-tone. Per year. Like one of these per month were coming out of the Le Brassus manufacture in the 70s. Fascinating stuff. And one wonders how many watches they're making these days, with how many people actually paying attention to the production. It's very fascinating. 428 is an example of one of the first stabs Audemars Piguet took at a reduced size, at a mid-sized Royal Oak. This is a 4100, basically a 36 millimeter example of what we were just looking at the previous lot. The jumbo is, of course, 39 millimeters. This is 36 millimeters. As you can see, even from the dial, you have the initials at 12 o'clock and a center sweep seconds. And of course, the case is a reduced size diameter of 36 millimeters rather than the 39 of the original. This piece has an estimated value of 16,000 to 32,000, roughly speaking, and so far has not attracted any offers. By the way, the two-tone jumbo was being bid at 25,660. When it comes to the jumbos, that's, of course, the quote-unquote the bargain. $430 is even a smaller size Royal Oak, and one powered by a quartz movement at that. This is the 56-175 in stainless steel with that famous blue dial that would be familiar to some through the works of the French painter Yves Klein. Of course, incredibly slim thanks to the quartz movements, and quite delightful to wear, actually. These smaller Royal Oaks have also kind of an oversized presence on the wrist due to the case construction. This piece comes with its original presentation case, as well as the certificates and other documents. And it has a pre-auction estimate of $12,830 to an amount that's almost $20,000 at lot 430. This is an AP Royal Oak 33 millimeters with a quartz movement with an Yves Klein blue dial, reference 56-175 in stainless steel. Please hit the like button, by the way. That's would genuinely help. We have then two examples of Vachon Constantin's take at this particular genre. The third generation overseas, 4500V, with the time and date version, with the ever so popular ink blue dial, the self-winding caliber that carries the hallmark of Geneva, with that compass rose, full gold, beautifully finished rotor weight. The watch lives up to the overseas moniker, as you guys know. A true sports watch in the genre. With not only um, a 150 meters depth rating, but also anti-magnetic properties. This particular piece is a full set. It, of course, comes with its matching stainless steel bracelet, as well as an alligator strap. And it was presented on that blue strap as well, blue rubber strap. The piece has an estimated value of 16,000 to almost 26,000 in US dollars, and it is being currently bid at 19,245 in US dollars. Please hit the like button, by the way. I would really appreciate that. I think I'm gonna go for another 15 or 20 minutes or so. I think I'll be able to finish this particular auction tonight. There's a 4500V again. Once again, a full set, but this time with a black dial and the complementary straps that go with it. This particular example at 434 is primarily present on its matching bracelet, evokes primary symbol of the brand, which is a Maltese cross. And of course, that's what the bezel takes after as well. The third generation of Vacheron Constantin overseas was introduced in 2016. It wasn't an instant hit, but it had a lot of elements that over time really helped it carve its own niche. Of course, the blue dial is really appreciated and quite striking and unique in its own way. But the modularity of the watch with the interchangeable system that allows the wearer to switch between the matching bracelet, rubber bands, and alligator with absolute ease and no necessity for tools was part of the attraction of the watch. The bracelets, to many, were absolutely great. I'm not a huge fan of the design, as you guys know, but that's my personal problem. That's my own issue. I think overall, this piece was a slow burner, but ultimately found its audience, carved its niche. And here, the black dial version at lot 434 has an estimate ranging roughly from 15,000 to an amount in excess of 23,500 in US dollars. That is lot 434 for a third generation Vacheron Constantin Overseas 4500V. At 434, we have a very underrated piece from AP's back catalog. This is the AP UTM chronograph in stainless steel with a black dial, with a tachymeter on a white track on the perimeter, and white chronograph registers, which have blue hands, 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock, 30-minute totalizer at 9 o'clock, and continuous running seconds at 12. A date indicator at 3 o'clock, which has its magnifier, is surrounded by the signatures of the brand. And for the sportier execution of the model, the bezel actually has engraved Arabic numerals for the seconds that are filled in with enamel. This is the AP UTM chronograph reference 26768 ST in stainless steel with the black dial. This is an AP chronograph that is built on a base supplied by Gégé de Coutre. The movement is called AP 2226 or 284. It's a cam switching chronograph. Quite a cool watch, even though neither the case shape nor the particular model nor the chronograph itself really became a great hit among collectors. This, of course, makes it also quite niche and an interesting buying opportunity for the collector who actually enjoys such pieces. This is lot 436 for the AP UTM chronograph reference 25768 ST with a pre-auction estimate of roughly 6,400 to an amount $10,700 or so. You see, Jeremy likes it, and I know Jake Brooks likes the AP UTM chronographs as well. I think these are very, very unique examples. I think the platinum version of this chronograph is really something. I love that one. Let me see if I can quickly find it. They have it in two-tone, of course, with a tantalum case and pink gold details, which is also another favorite for me. But the platinum one has blue dial, if I can find it. That that really is a stunning iteration of the piece. All right, I can't really find the platinum one, so I'm going to show the two-tone in tantalum with pink gold accents, which is very unique and absolutely stunning. I love it because it also has a dial that replicates that interplay of the two hues, two tones, kind of gunmetal gray backgrounds with pink gold accents, including all the dial furniture and the hands. It's a cracking watch. And it's something that you can wear to your friends who are F. Bejon collectors and owners of chronomètre bleu, who think that F. Bejon came up with the, primal elements for that particular metal and dug it up from the earth with his own hands. You can show them, look, this is something that AP did in the early 90s, so well before François Paul had anything to do with tantalum, but that's just a funny little detail. The tantalum pink gold, the two-tone version. Look, I certainly wouldn't pay this price. I think 10 to 12.5. Granted, this is in a beautiful condition, even though it doesn't have any box and papers. I do not care, but it's really hard to find them in this condition. I would not want to pay more than 12,000 or 12.5, nonetheless. Yeah, for less than that, you are literally running away with it. If money is no object, make an offer and see if you can reach a deal with this person, because I have seen in person and along the markets many examples of this. They were rarely this clean. So I have to give them credit for that. Yeah, this is a very, very, very clean example. Nice. I mean, if it's a choice between the Daniel Roth and this chronograph, and if you're looking for quote unquote a dress watch, I would lean towards the Daniel Roth. Because yes, it's quirky, you know, the font of the Arabic numerals makes it a little more playful, but I think overall that's actually a very good um, dress watch compared to, or a dressy watch compared to the AP chronograph, which, you know, even in a precious metal has a very sporty kind of appeal. Okay, so we are slowly coming to the end. It's past midnight here, but I did say I'll finish this particular auction. As you can see, there are two examples of that UTM in this auction. One at 436, one at 438. There's also an example of the watch that has purportedly saved AP in the 80s. The reference 5548, the ultra thin self-winding perpetual calendar in a classic round case. Take a look at that. I will be right back. Please hit the like button, by the way, if you haven't done so already. Um, I love these designs as well. Round case with relatively short lugs, but a stepped bezel. Wears really nicely. A lot of the real estate is given to the dial, which makes it at once very balanced and legible as a design. Again, that same principle in terms of the quote unquote coloring of the hands is preserved in this round cased example of the perpetual calendar as it was in the Royal Oak example, with blue hands for the calendrical functions and the gold hands for the timekeeping. This is lot 437 with an estimate that ranges roughly from 7,500, 7,500 to an amount in excess of 10,000, but the piece is already being bid at 8,546 in US dollars. There are some beautiful pieces here from Blancpain and Breguet. At lot 436, we have a beautiful erotic watch and minute repeater from Blancpain. This is lot 436, a pièce unique in platinum, with a two-tone silver dial that looks like just a two-hander watch. Very simple, very thin too, by the way, especially for a minute repeater. And then there's a couple on the back who are in the process of getting it on. Love it. This is a sapphire crystal display back that reveals a finely engraved erotic scene for, again, a 34 millimeter platinum watch, round case, stepped bezel, chiming watch with an erotic automaton on the back. And as you can see, it is extremely wearable for the kind of function that it has. This is lot 439. Hey, take care, Jeremy. I'm closing the show soon as well, but have a great night. Sweet dreams. This one-of-a-kind Blancpain piece is currently being bid at $27,775 in US dollars. The pre-auction estimate was ranging from 25,000 to roughly 53,500 in US dollars as well. At lot 440, we have a beautiful Breguet split seconds chronograph, Rattrapante. The reference number is 3947. The piece is rendered in white gold in a 38 millimeter case. And the dial is, of course, fashioned in the traditional approach of Breguet, made out of a gold blank, silvered with Roman numerals on the frosted track, the two secret signatures flanking the Roman numeral 12. The guilloche decoration at the center of the dial with two plaques. At 12 o'clock, you have the brand signature with the number for the movements. And at 6 o'clock, you have a plaque that identifies this watch as a Rattrapante, as a Doppelchronograph, or as a split seconds chronograph, as we call it in English. The hands are fashioned out of stainless steel and in the Breguet house style for the hour and minutes. The split seconds pusher is roughly at 9:30. Here is a look at the split second movement. Split second chronograph movements. which is derived actually from the Lemania CH2310, Lemania CH27. The famous movements that made it to the moon as Omega 321 and powered generations of Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronographs, among other exquisite timepieces. Of course, Breguet, sitting on the Nouvelle Lemania manufacture, which it integrated into its premises, also used this hand-wound chronograph movement extensively. This piece comes from around year 2000 and has a pre-auction estimate that ranges from 21,000 to an amount in excess of 32,000, and it is currently being bid at 21,365 in US dollars. Speaking of legendary Breguet chronographs, we have a Type 20 from 1960. No auction held in Paris would be complete without beautiful example of a classic Type 20. This is from early 1960s. The flyback chronograph made in the mid-century by about 5 different makers. Breguet was among them, for the air forces of the French Navy, according to their Type 20 specifications. This is the civilian version with a 3-register configuration, a 15-minute totalizer with the big eye at 3 o'clock, a 12-minute counter at 6, and continuous running seconds at 9. Slightly oversized Arabic numerals for the hour markers, syringe hands for the hour and minutes, and a spear-shaped centrally deployed chronograph hour hand. The bidirectional rotatable bezel is calibrated for 12 hours. And the watch is a flyback chronograph. The Valjoux 225 not only has that flyback functionality, but also has, as I mentioned, a minute totalizer that's calibrated for 15 minutes instead of the more conventional 30 minutes. This particular piece has not yet attracted any bids at 442, lot number 442, but has a pre-auction estimate of an amount in excess of $21,000 all the way up to an amount in excess of $37,000. The starting bid would be around 19,000 in US dollars. I think I might have one more watch to talk about, maybe. Maybe, or maybe we might actually be closing very soon. I think I have exactly one watch. We were just talking about the 321, and here is the Speedmaster Heritage Ed White. This is the classic Speedmaster that has been reproduced according to the specifications of the Ed White watch with the classic Omega 321 movements that Omega had to make from scratch. A beautiful rendition of the classic watch and classic movements. These pieces have the pre-professional case, so smaller and without the twisted lugs. Here, scaling right under 40 millimeters, roughly 39.7. The piece comes as a full set, box, papers, and everything else that comes with it, including the international warranty, instruction manual, 2 fabric straps, 4 extra pins, pin driver, magnifying glass, Speedmaster metal, presentation case, and other packaging. Beautiful case back that gives you a nice look into this multifaceted and interesting treatment of the Omega 321. These pieces actually have a dedicated atelier, dedicated workshop at Omega's manufacturer, apparently, which is the primary reason for their limited production number. And as far as I know, since Omega doesn't have access to the parts or the base of the original Lemania CH27 movements, they actually produced everything from scratch, and I think made the parts from scratch as well. So this is not a movement that, for example, Breguet supplies them and that they then put together in their own way. They actually make it themselves. This particular piece had a pre-auction estimates that had its high ceiling right above $16,000, but I believe with it's being already bid at 11,751 in US dollars, it will go for much higher. This was lot 462, lot number 462 for an Omega Speedmaster Heritage Ed White, the 2022 model with the recreation of the classic 3-2-1 movement. All right, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for your questions, contributions, and everything you did in the chats. We have 2 more entries to the raffle, with JB getting number 7 and Jeremy Butcher getting number 8. Thank you so much for your super chats, Jake Brooks, Captain, Jake Brooks again, and Jeremy Butcher. I really appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you for your presence and support. If you haven't yet clicked the like button, please do so. It really, really does help. You guys know this is a small channel, so every like is a big boost. Every video you share with someone else, whenever you spread the word about the channel, it helps a great deal. So if you want to share some of the shorter videos, the 1-hour interviews, the 15 seconds to 30-second shorts, the shorter reviews that range from 10 to 20 minutes. You can share all of those, and I think they are chock full of helpful information and a lot of interesting details, horological and historical. So you can help me bring more people onto this platform. You guys know all the super chats, super thanks, and super stickers go for the fundraising efforts until October 12th. So if you want to help the channel, you know how. The links are in the video description. I'm also gonna pin them to the chats very quickly. In either case, if you become a member to the channel, you will not only gain access to exclusive contents, but you'll also help me keep the lights on, so to speak. So that would always be much appreciated. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for your presence and support. Thank you so much for the contributions. I will see you on Thursday, I think, because I'm taking tomorrow night off. But we will come back with a bang. There's so many more auctions, so many more interesting new releases to dissect, and so many more beautiful watches to talk about. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear your watches, and enjoy them. Thank you, everybody. Good night.